200,000 people, 75 matchups across 4 months to determine the most entertaining runner-up in Survivor. Perhaps unsurprisingly, in 40th place is Clay. Thailand is renowned as a dark season, and for many voters he didn't fit the mould of what they considered entertaining. That being said, a vocal minority believe Clay's dark humour justified him higher on this list. With that said, however, his supporters were few and far between, and Clay sunk to the bottom like a brick. All runners-up had 3 matchups until they reached the top 16. To rank higher, runners-up had to beat other runners-up by a majority of the vote. However, percentages were used as a tiebreaker. I only included second placers, so no third placers like Carolyn Wigger will be in this video, and finalists with the same number of votes competed against their counterpart to get into the tournament. Winners like Natalie, Parvati and Rob, that technically classed as runners-up, also won't be in this video. If you're interested in where they rank entertainment wise, then check out my video on the most entertaining winner after this one. Next on this list is Kim Johnson, and much like Clay, she's near the bottom. Spoilers, but if you're a viewer that likes runners up from the older Survivor seasons, you're not gonna love this video. She didn't get her vocal cords removed, and while Susie flip-flopped throughout the game, it was her lack of standout moments which tanked her ranking. With that said, she did have some more support than the prior 2 finalists. However, when you're on a season with Sugar, Randy, Crystal and Corinne, it's hard to be anything other than overshadowed for most people. This overshadow mentality also relates to Palau finalist Katie. The endgame of that season is best remembered by Tom and Ian going at it, with Katie being left on the sidelines simply to watch. As one of my commenters noted, Katie is such a hot mess the entirety of Palau. Her final tribal is just iconic in how awful it is. She's at least leaving this video with her self-respect, but unfortunately she might not have the respect from everyone else. Just like my video on the most entertaining winner, this competition occurred before Survivor 44 finished. So as a result, Heidi isn't quite 36th on this list, but I put her against the highest placing 0 and 3, 1 and 2, and 2 and 1 contestants. In spite of her being an extremely recent runner-up, Heidi was largely purpled out of the edit. While yes, her storyline was definitely inspiring, it definitely wasn't the most entertaining. And on the topic of the highest placing 0 and 3, that distinction goes to Gavin Whitson. The Edge of Extinction will probably go down as the most bizarre season editing wise, with a winner that was only on screen for 30% of the game, and only one man dominated the screen time. Likewise, Gavin was a victim of this editing style, and as a result there was nothing to set him apart from other runners-up. If you are new to the channel, then welcome. This channel focuses on giving individuals a voice in the Survivor community. To help the community-based videos reach more people, make sure to subscribe so the community can grow even more. Also, when you subscribe, you get notified about every poll I make, and you'll be more likely to feature in future videos. Now on to the 1 and 2s, beginning with one of the most hurtful results for me personally, Twyla. Twyla was a loud presence on Vanuatu, and had rivalries particularly with Eliza. With that said, Twyla was once again another runner-up that featured in an older season with an abrasive personality that irked some individuals. On the topic of irking individuals, Deshawn was renowned for his many explosive arguments with Shan in season 41 Tribals. But apart from that rivalry, Deshawn wasn't the most notable presence on the show, and when you have opponents like Wu and Courtney, that unfortunately won't cut it. On the topic of cut, Machete, Matt sliced up Susie, and then lost his next 2 battles. So while yes, his sharpening scene is an iconic moment, apart from that, Matt was this fairly unmemorable dude that acted as an extra vote for the infamous Rob Sesternino. Perhaps one of the more curious instances is Brad, who is the first contestant to have featured in a Friday main event against Mike Turner. Despite his limited time, Brad was a lightning rod for drama on Blood vs Water. However, he only lasted a few rounds, and his more recent Game Changers run was pretty mundane. Plus, at points his pressuring of Ty felt very uncomfortable. Yet another heartbreaking placement came from Sabrina at 31. Now I am a big Sabrina fan, so I hate to see her this low. However, even I have to acknowledge she was largely overshadowed by Kim in One World. Plus season 24, well, it's just not that good of a season. Unfortunately, Sabrina was left needing votes like a fat kid needs cake. Similarly, Carolyn was another individual left 1 and 2. Much like Sabrina, she was looked over by the editors in favour of the lovable underdog Mike Holloway. While Carolyn had an early win, when pitted against tougher competition, she couldn't hack it. And now on to Cassidy. And the Cassidy stands will be out for blood. It's about time for me to right my little Northern Irish will. Despite theoretically having recency bias in her favour, Cassidy still ended the tournament with a middling score. It's not super surprising though, considering Cassidy was more so edited to be a player solid at all 3 facets of the game, rather than an entertainment machine. The same can be said about San Juan del Sur's Jacqueline. When you think about the Mish couple on season 29, a lot of people are going to be talking about her then boyfriend John. Sadly, this is one massive drop she won't recover from. Lil is by far one of the most interesting cases on this list. While she does come off as a standard sweeter old lady, she did have her moments. Her rivalry with Savage had a satisfying conclusion, and the final immunity challenge contains some fantastic quips. On the old school train, we're actually continuing to the first ever runner-up, Kelly Wigglesworth. Now for eagle-eyed viewers, you'll see Kelly had 4 matchups compared to 3. This because her and Hannah were both 1 and 2 with the same percentages, so they had a tiebreaker poll. Wigglesworth lost that alongside 2 other battles. Considering she was just there in Borneo and was a dud in Cambodia, it shouldn't be too surprising to see her this low. And now on to Hannah, who did have some backers. Some individuals admired Hannah and her unique charm, which helped differentiate her from the competition. As one person notes, I enjoyed Hannah's quirkiness and her strategic capabilities. But when you're on a season with Adam, David, Jay and Zeke, it's an uphill battle to remain memorable. A large majority of Lisa Welchell's early game involved her avoiding the target from facts of life. Unfortunately for the sister of Justice, my fanbase dropped the hammer, with her not making it to the top 16 playoffs. Let's cut to the chase. The King of Nicaragua had many moral struggles, particularly when voting out his queen in Branda. While Chase refused to give out the dumber than a bag of hammers reward, my fanbase could only award him with a single win in his matchups. Lonely if you are Chase. I'm sorry. The final 1 and 2 contestant is Dawn Meehan. Dawn had teething issues at the start, but her ability to gain strong percentages in her losses with a solid win over Susie resulted in a fairly respectable outcome. While Dawn has had memorable moments, it's hard to pick out a truly entertaining moment from her 2 seasons of appearances. Now on to the contestants with 2 wins, and what better way to start off than with everyone's favourite tablet nibbler, Nalia. Despite being from an old school season, Nalia was considered quite memorable among the community for her klutzy moments. It's honestly a breath of fresh air, and no, I'm not talking about her candy mint. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Well, you were half right with the first guess. Mr. Shepard bamboozled many Survivor fans with his argumentative nature and interesting beliefs. While Philip is certainly entertaining, many individuals also found him grating. Not to mention he did assist Boston Rob in creating one of the most boring seasons gameplay-wise, so there's that too. If you've never met a neat old lady, feast your eyes on Monica Culpepper. Despite Blood vs. Water being a clear attempt to get Brad on the show, Monica held her own in the entertainment standpoint. She's never going to be the biggest character, hence why she's only halfway on the list, but she was a fun presence that my fans like. We're getting closer to the playoffs, but next up we have Season 42's Mike Turner, the final modern Survivor runner-up. In spite of Mike's motto being that of an honourable gentleman, his Survivor 42 game can be best described as a man flying a plane with zero expertise on being a pilot. Mike crashed and burned throughout many parts of his appearance. While Mike getting bashed on throughout the season was fun, it was more so others bashing on him that makes him a notable presence. The last contestant to not make it to the top 16 is DK Chillin. Now Dean is an interesting case for a video like this. While he is known for being a detective, on the other side of the coin we have DK Villain, who aligned with him, and refused to go through with any blindside against Tommy. As a result, for as amazing of a character as Dean is, people felt others were more worthy of higher placements. The first of which is Wu, weaseling his way into the top 16 playoff spot. This is a tough spot to be in, as sure you make it to the top 16, but your first opponent is the number 1 seed, and that was Courtney Yates. Needless to say, if you're going up against the Queen of Chaos, your ninja stealth won't cut it. And apparently Captain DiLorenzo won't either. Despite being most memorable for getting into an argument over Treasure Island and beating the absolute lining out of Amanda, Danielle was surrounded by entertaining figures. She was a part of the insane Villains tribe and the even more insane Kasaya 6. But Danielle herself was fine, just this attractive young woman that was a good screen presence but never the centre of attention. Dreams is one of the more memorable individuals from a largely unmemorable season. Jeff Probst himself said if it wasn't for him and Yowman, then Fiji would have absolutely nothing. While Dreams was a big truck in a small lane, unfortunately at this stage of the ranking you're going up against lorries, and in that case Dreams ran out of road. The final quote-unquote old school runner-up is Colby. Damn it Reed, you let Superman in a fat suit down again. The once hero of America suffered from 2 underwhelming appearances on All Stars and Heroes vs Villains. Unfortunately, this Hershey bar has completely melted. On the topic of heroes, next we have Chrissy, who despite her hero title was anything but that on season 35. Now Chrissy was great TV and had a fun rivalry with Ben, but outside of all but 2 contestants left, Chrissy only played 1 time. To contest with other individuals with season-long legacies is too much of a hustle. Stephanie's legacy is defined by her underdog status on Palau, contrasting her flawed dominance in Guatemala. With that said, some of Stephanie's comments haven't aged the best, and her most recent appearance on the show was Heroes vs Villains, where she only survived 1 round. And kicking off the top 10, we have everyone's favourite brainiac, Spencer Bledsoe. In Cagayan, he had the perfect underdog story, but in Cambodia, things changed around. The editors decided to hone in on his robotic demeanour and made his entire storyline about learning emotions. While Spencer made 2 deep runs, Cambodia was a pale imitation of a beloved individual. The final person to not make the top 8 was the number 9 seed Fishback. That being said, considering his losses were to Courtney and a narrow defeat to Aussie, it could be a lot worse. As someone commented, Steven is so compelling to watch. He sees his rise and fall, and even then his fall is just so hard. Truly an iconic loss, I love him for it. Fishback used to be well known as the wizard that befriended and lost to the farmer boy, but his influence on the Know-It-Alls podcast probably propelled his status as well. Unfortunately, others in Tokensheens were more entertaining than him, such as another individual we'll get to shortly. We previously talked about Aussie, and well, here he is. Some people didn't like his egotistical nature, others found him entertaining, and others found him entertaining in spite of his egotistical nature. As one of my commenters note, Aussie was a great strategist when it came to getting laid. I forgot someone made this comment. Aussie was a great strategist when it came to getting laid. Not so much when it came to Survivor, but I did find him extremely entertaining. Nevertheless, this led into the rankings. Any negatives in a character will be exploited. Mike White is absolute comedy gold. In season 37, he was a Goliath, drunkenly stumbling through the forest. He was absolutely lovable and gave fantastic confessionals for the majority of the season. But throughout the middle stage of the season, he did take slightly more of a back seat, as he was willing to ride the Goliath Majority Alliance. A bit more under the radar of an entry is Amanda Kimmel, who always seems to come out of nowhere to produce surprisingly high results in my videos. Amanda is not going to be the main character of any season, and that likely prevented her from reaching the semi-finals. But she will always be seen as a positive addition to any season she's on. The last elimination before the top 4 was actually the first upset of the tournament. The elimination of the number 2 seed Aubrey. Aubrey had some tough fights and was the only loss Colby, Chrissy and Philip faced. Aubrey is always an enjoyable screen presence and is a very memorable figure with their unique analogies. But she was pitted against Russell Hantz, who basically defined the Survivor Samoa season, and she came up short. Now on to the final 4, and what better way to start off with the number 4 seed, Dominic. Dominic alongside Wendell is essentially 90% of Ghost Island, as the two dominated the game front to back. While this level of predictable domination hurts Dominic's image, it's still Dominic Abate. He had a rivalry with almost everyone and managed to make drinking coffee a fun moment. Now that's impressive. Taking bronze is someone I previously teased would make an appearance, and that's Coach. Tokenshine's and Heroes vs Villains Coach is prime coach, and cream of the crop entertainment, no doubt. However, his runner-up season was South Pacific, and while Coach returned to his usual antics, it came off as if Coach was trying to force it. Had Coach not had his South Pacific run, he could have been number 1, but the darkness of that season was a bit too much for some voters. But now for the ultimate villain showdown, the battle between the bandy-legged little troll and the twig. This matchup actually occurred twice throughout the tournament, causing Russell to be second. Courtney was his kryptonite, as despite beating the number 3 seed Coach and the number 2 seed Aubrey, Russell didn't have enough supporters to pull out the crown. It's kind of reminiscent to his actual Survivor games, if you think about it. Instead, taking the crown is the Queen Courtney, as again the number 1 seed wins it all. In spite of only 4 confessionals and Heroes vs Villains, all of them were iconic, and Courtney bashing people constantly in China is a character arc you can never truly get tired of. Considering her perfect blend of roasting others and coming up with off-the-cuff quips, it really is the formula to win a runner-up tournament. A massive thank you to everyone that took the time to vote and comment on the polls. It means a lot, and make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you're notified for any future polls I release. On screen now is a video where I collaborated with Russell Muscle to make the Ultimate Rivals cast. I personally think you'll enjoy it. Nevertheless, remember to get a good night's sleep tonight. Peace!